Well, Mookie Betts called it a sigh of relief, referring to the decision from Kevin Cash last night to remove Blake Snell in the sixth inning. And the rest is history. The Dodgers are champions, and joining us now is Arden Zwelling and Ben Nicholson-Smith. You know, Arden, this is what the Rays do. They live and die by the analytics game. But was there any bit of surprise for you when Austin Barnes got that base hit, third time through the order is about to start, and Kevin Cash, he didn't walk. He kind of had a good jog to go out and get Blake Snell out of the game. Were you surprised at all by the move?
I wasn't because of what you just said. This is what the Rays do. This is their process. So why would they do anything differently now? I like how everyone's kind of using this one specific result to dunk all over analytics and data-driven decision making, as if the team that was making the move wasn't playing in Game 6 of the World Series. That alone is proof that their methods lead to success. They got to this point, and if you kind of just pull out from that one specific decision, the Rays didn't lose this game because they pulled Blake Snell. They didn't lose the World Series because they pulled Blake Snell. They lost that game because they scored one run. If you only score one run, you're not beating the 2020 Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not even saying that figuratively. Like literally, the Dodgers were never shut out this season in 78 games played between the regular season and the playoffs, not once. So what's your alternative scenario here? That Blake Snell was going to pitch a complete game shutout? That has also literally never happened. Not once in his 5-year career has he ever pitched a complete game, let alone a shutout. So, I just don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Blake Snell was going to keep striking everyone out. His velocity was declining. His stuff was getting less effective. He'd just given up a hit. And the next batter he was facing was about to see him for a third time on the night. And that batter's name is Mookie Betts. So do you want to give Mookie Betts a third look at the lefty, or do you want to gain platoon advantage and force him to get a hit off a fresh arm and a new look? So we all know the result now, and we all know Nick Anderson gave up a double. Obviously, if you could do it all over again, you'd stick with Snell, knowing the result afterwards. But I think the logic of the decision isn't flawed.
Yeah, I agree. And those are some great points, Arden. And I think for anyone looking to dunk on analytics, as you say, I mean, look at the team that just won the World Series. They used a bullpen game in the clinching moment of their season, and it worked. So analytics are everywhere. Analytics are behind the player development machine that makes the Dodgers as good as they are. You look at guys like Walker Buehler. You look at the discoveries of guys like Justin Turner and Max Muncy. You're not doing that without analytics. So the idea that, the Rays are somehow run by robots just doesn't make any sense, especially when you think about the context of Snell's start, right? This is a pitcher who did not throw 6 innings a single time this year. So for him to be pitching in the 6th inning, that actually is going deep into the game. You look at the entire World Series, no one went beyond 6 innings in this entire World Series. And we were saying it yesterday, the plan for the Rays was only to get a few innings from Snell, then hand it over to the bullpen with the lead. So this was working according to plan for the Rays, and Snell did his job, certainly, and the decision didn't work. So I'm acknowledging that. I acknowledge also that on an aesthetic level, it's definitely not as fun. We love seeing guys go out there for 7, 8 innings at a time, but from a strategic standpoint, this decision was justified. It just didn't work. And so that's something the Rays are going to have to live with. It's something Kevin Cash is going to have to live with, and Blake Snell, but it doesn't mean that it was this horrible, abominable, unjustifiable decision. It was a reasonable decision that didn't work out.
So the Dodgers win, and after the game, Rob Manfred hands the commissioner's trophy to the Dodgers chairman, who had a long speech written out. And, frankly, I didn't really listen to a word he was saying because we were digesting the news that Justin Turner, during the game, the Dodgers found out he tested positive for COVID-19. So, Arden, there are so many questions about this. Jeff Passan reporting today that, the results, or at least the tests that the Dodgers took on Monday, got to the lab in Utah late, which is the reason why the Dodgers found out in the 2nd inning there was an inconclusive test. So that's not great. And then the decision for Turner to go out on the field with a mask and then take it off during the celebration. There's a lot that went wrong last night. Just not a great look for baseball all around.
No, but welcome to pandemic policy in the United States of America. in MLB. Like, remember how players weren't supposed to spit during games, and remember how they weren't supposed to have sunflower seeds, and they were all supposed to wear masks in the dugouts, and they weren't going to sit together in the bullpen. Like, tell me if you've seen any of those things occur throughout the season. None of these protocols were particularly harshly enforced or enforced at all at any point in the season. And if you don't enforce your protocols, then at that point they're really just suggestions. And Justin Turner did not care about your suggestions, and neither did anyone else involved. Like, it should be said, not his teammates, because they were all hugging him and celebrating with him, not his organization, because they let him go out on the field, and not the league, because the guy was still at the stadium at the time. Everyone in those photos with him knew that he had tested positive for COVID-19. As you said, we all knew this news traveled very fast. Everyone he was hugging, everyone that he was shaking hands with, they all knew, and none of them really look even the slightest bit uncomfortable about it. It's quite the contrary, in fact, right? So look, if it were me, I personally would have gotten the hell out of there, because I don't want to contract the virus. But that seemingly was not a concern for those who were participating in the celebration. I can't say I'm all that surprised, having watched MLB's protocols throughout the season, and even just knowing how the United States of America at large has responded to the threat of this virus.
And it definitely is a bad look, when you see the celebration and Turner right in the middle of it, mask off for some photos. I mean, that's a pretty scary scene. At the same time, it can't be the job of Dave Roberts or Corey Seager or Clayton Kershaw to police this. They have other things to worry about. They're not involved in the testing protocols. They have to worry about winning a baseball game, and they did their job. They won the World Series. So at that point, it has to be on somebody with the Dodgers, somebody with Major League Baseball, to make sure that Justin Turner, as unfortunate as it would have been for him to have to not be a part of that celebration, especially as he nears the potential end of his tenure with the Dodgers, it isn't safe. It wasn't safe. So that had to be the decision that someone was going to make and enforce, and it didn't happen. And to me, this now, in a sense, Major League Baseball will be able to optically turn the page after this 24-hour news cycle. They will move on. But the question to me is, what would have happened if the Rays had come back and won that game, and Justin Turner and the rest of these Dodgers had potentially been contaminated? I mean, that's a question Major League Baseball doesn't have to answer. But to me, it's a pretty significant what if.
It was a memorable season, a memorable Game 6 ending to the World Series, and baseball has a very interesting offseason coming up, and the Dodgers will get their due. They are, as they are champions in 2020.